Well, call me shocked. WWE actually did the right thing with all of the key matches here on this show. I cannot believe that I am sitting here right now and we are going to talk about Night of Champions, a WWE Championship match, a King of the Ring final, a Queen of the Ring final, and WWE is batting 1,000 as far as all of the key matches go, but none bigger than what we just saw in the main event. This went from being just another show to being a very newsworthy show after what happened in the main event, which was a triple threat match. Cody Rhodes, Gunther, and SAMI ZAYN for the WWE Championship. This was the natural outgrowth of everything that we've seen over the last few weeks. We've already seen Cody and Gunther. SAMI ZAYN, the whole last real good guy thing, he's kind of worked his way into this story. And so a triple threat only made sense for this show. And coming into the show, I said, you know what I would like to see? I would like to see Cody Rhodes drop the WWE Championship, but it was very clear it was not going to be to Gunther. I would love to see Cody Rhodes drop the championship to SAMI ZAYN. And I couldn't even believe I was sitting here saying that, because 6 months ago, if you would have told me that, hey, you know what I think we should do? I think we should put the World Championship on SAMI ZAYN. I would have said, you're out of your fucking mind. It is incredible. This is a great example of just how important a simple character tweak, a simple character change can be in someone's career. Because think of where this man was at the beginning of the year. In fact, we can go back even further. We are living in the year 2026. And I do believe it was 2016 when SAMI ZAYN officially made his way to the main roster. Right? I think it was 2015 when he had that unfortunate injury when he wrestled John Cena and he tore his friggin' rotator cuff, flailing his arms around. By 2016, this man was on the main roster. He's been there for a decade. And SAMI ZAYN has always been that guy, right? Great worker. He's a great wrestler. He's a good hand. He's a good guy to put in there maybe against the champion, right? But he's not the champion. He doesn't look like a champion. He doesn't look like somebody that you would build around. He's not going to be the face of a brand. He's the guy who works with the guy, right? That was kind of the rap on SAMI ZAYN, right? Tag team champion, intercontinental champion, United States champion. The thing about SAMI, though, is that whatever you give him, he takes it and he knocks it out of the park. He did that recently with the U.S. Title Open Challenge stuff last year. He's the one who really got that going. It went from him to Dragunov, from Dragunov to Carmelo Hayes. But it was SAMI ZAYN who really got things in motion with that. And it was some of the best television on SmackDown late last year. The Bloodline stuff. Need I say more? The Bloodline stuff was obviously a much larger story. And I'm not saying it was a terrible story. But when SAMI ZAYN, the whole Sami Uso thing, right? When SAMI ZAYN came into the picture, holy shit. I mean, did that not level it up? One level above whatever it was they were doing before. He added a dimension and an element to that was very entertaining and really took the Bloodline story to that next level. The Bloodline story does not work as well if they don't essentially luck into the whole Sami Uso thing. So he was very instrumental in that. He was part of that story. He ended up getting a main event spot. He got a main event win, won the tag team championships in the main event of WrestleMania. He's had a lot of achievements, a lot of accomplishments in his career, but now he can add one more to that list. Now he can call himself WWE Champion. I didn't think they'd have the balls to do it. In fact, when SmackDown was over last night, I had this feeling that as much as I want to see Sami win, this did not come off to me like a show that was building to a SAMI ZAYN title win. I came out of that show last night thinking, boy, it sure feels to me like they may just keep the belt on Cody and we're not going to get any change at all. And I was kind of hoping it would go a different way, but I was not terribly optimistic about it. SAMI ZAYN went out there in the main event tonight, a man who only a few months ago, I want to point this out to you, he was feuding with Trick Williams and the Gingerbread Man. In fact, he showed up one week dressed up as the Gingerbread Man. This was only 2 months ago, 3 months ago. This wasn't that far in the past that we were doing the Gingerbread Man stuff, okay? I had a funeral on SmackDown, the SmackDown review last night that I think was more entertaining than the Gingerbread Man funeral a few months ago. But that's the kind of stuff that Sami Zayn was doing not that long ago. The reactions to him began to change. And to me, this is a great example of something where you kind of luck into it. There is this organic, natural response from the audience where Sami starts getting booed. But it's not like total, complete boos. It's not like he's coming out there and getting Dominic Mysterio heat or anything like that. But the reactions are changing. And I'm sure Sami in real life is looking at this and he's how can it not bother you, right? He's probably looking at this and going, this is kind of strange. But then if you're someone like Sami Zayn who's been doing this for a long time, you realize pretty quickly, hey, we may have something here. We may be able to parlay this into something that could actually end up being a really good thing for me. So let's just lean into it and see where it goes. And hence the whole, last real good guy stuff that he's been doing where he's a heel, but maybe not like 100%. He comes out, he talks about his ride or die fans. It was just an interesting change to his character from what he had been doing previously. But it just worked out so well. And the title scene on SmackDown has been so lackluster. They moved Gunther over from Raw to SmackDown to try to fix the problem because coming out of WrestleMania, they didn't have Drew McIntyre. And you couldn't well go back to Cody and Drew anyway. You already played that out. They didn't have Randy Orton, who I take it really is hurt. I saw he just got pulled from Fanatics Fest. He pulled out of Fanatics Fest, which is coming up in a few weeks. I don't know what's going on with him. That story to me is a dead story. I mean, sure, they could always revisit it, but the level of interest and excitement that I had finally for a Cody and Randy story was ruined. They fucked it all up at WrestleMania. So even if they revisit it one day, I don't know that I'm going to have the same level of enthusiasm for it. They kind of botched the whole thing up there. But then Randy Orton, punted Cody in the head. He hasn't been seen since WrestleMania. So they had to shift Gunther over with any hope they'll move CM Punk over. I've been saying that for a long time. It sounds like that is what they're going to do. They have to. They have to. Monday Night Raw is the Roman Reigns show. It is the Bloodline show. And we already had a WrestleMania main event with Punk and Roman. Punk, he could use the change in scenery. But for the time being, we were, dealing with Cody and Gunther, and Cody had already beaten him. And then they had the rematch on TV, right, a couple of weeks ago or a week ago, whatever it was. And it was all done in a way that set up the match that we had here on this show. The one negative, as I look at these three men, and I look at Gunther specifically, is the aura that this man has lost, that he has shed in the 6 months since he beat AJ Styles, in the 7 months since he retired John Cena. He was the man that they chose. He was the man that John Cena said, hey, not only are we going to work together and you're going to beat me, I have an idea for how I'd like to go out. Right? I'm going to give up. They bestowed that upon Gunther. Look at where he is now. And you honestly tell me, that Gunther in June of 2026 still feels the same way that he felt in December or January of this year. He doesn't. And I don't know how they get that back. Not saying they can't, but I'm saying what they had, it's kind of gone away. And I didn't really have much of an interest at this point in even seeing Gunther win the championship from Cody. But Sami, that interested me because you can go in a lot of different directions with that. Not just because, I like Sami or because, he deserves it. He hasn't been the champion yet. Sometimes people don't win the championship, but there are times where it just makes sense. To me, this is a moment in time here where it made sense to shake things up a little bit here on the road to SummerSlam. I don't see the harm in doing it. Instead of just playing the status quo, this now shakes up the title picture on SmackDown in a way that makes things interesting as we look ahead now to SummerSlam. We're not exactly sure what the main event is going to look like on the SmackDown side. Are we looking at a scenario where we get Cody and Sami in a rematch, one-on-one? I think that's very likely. I cannot imagine a SummerSlam main event this year that does not have Cody Rhodes in it. Are we looking at a scenario where the new King of the Ring is going to choose to go after Sami and his championship? Are we looking at something maybe completely off the wall that we may not even be thinking of? Are we even looking at Sami Zayn going into SummerSlam as the champion? Are we looking at a situation where Sami Zayn doesn't make it out of Saturday night's main event as the WWE champion? All of these options are now on the table. And I welcome it because SmackDown could use a real kick in the ass. It can use a shot in the arm and a little unpredictability. And I feel like now that's what we have, at least in the main event scene here on SmackDown. But again, like I'm just thinking back to, you know, where we were coming out of WrestleMania and where we are now. And Gunther is there, and Punk is likely coming in. Sami is the champion. You still got Cody in the mix, and I don't know who else they may want to throw in there. But all of a sudden, you've got something I think that people can at least talk about and discuss in terms of like, I don't know exactly where this is going to go. I personally just look at that as a good thing. I thought the main event tonight on this show, easily the best thing on the entire show. I knew coming in, you put those three men in the ring together, you're going to get a great match. That's also why I like the idea of them doing a triple threat, right? You get a kick-ass match out of it. And that's exactly what we got. Great drama down the line. It really, I think, stood out more so because there were so many other things on this show that came off so flat. And I can't even just blame the crowd. The crowd was very quiet for a lot of the undercard, right? Of course, when the big stars were out there, Sami, of course, is always beloved when he goes over to Saudi. Cody, Oba. There were people like that who got, I'm not saying that they didn't get reactions, but so much on this show, the product came across so cold, like ice cold, like rigor mortis cold, but for a couple of matches on the entire show. I didn't think this was a good show overall. I was pretty fucking bored for most of it. The big highlight of the show was that main event and the main event finish. And again, I liked the fact that they batted 1,000 as far as I think the outcomes for the key matches on the show. They got it right when it came to the key matches on this show. And some people may disagree when it comes to the Seth and Bron Breakker match. Although I didn't look at that as one of the key matches on this show. But where it mattered, where it counted, I thought they got it right. I'm also just tickled every time Michael Cole, and this is not the first time he's done this, but Michael Cole has taken, there's been so many strays that Wemby has taken, including another one on commentary tonight during the main event from Michael Cole. But we'll get into like what happened in the main event, where things may go from here with Sami. That was obviously the big story coming out of this. One thing I will say, I do wish, and I suppose there's always a chance of it, but it seems unlikely, given that I think he had surgery less than a year ago. It was a very serious injury. But man, now that Sami Zayn is the WWE champion for however long he's going to be the champion for, if ever there was a time, a perfect time for Kevin Owens to reappear on television, this would be it, right? Whether they're on opposite sides, whether they're on the same side, because despite what Cody Rhodes may have said on SmackDown last night, Kevin Owens has never been WWE champion. Sami Zayn actually won the WWE title before Kevin Owens did. If ever there was a good time for him to pop back up on TV, this would be it. It might be wishful thinking, but who knows? I guess it depends on how long Sami holds that championship for. But then the other thing, outside of the WWE title, that this show was built around, is right. Let me prepare here, because you can't talk about the King of the Ring without a crown. So I only feel it's appropriate here that we place this on the royal head. Yeah, I think back on these King of the Ring tournaments over the years, the televised ones, they go all the way back to 1993. And we've gotten some really good finals over the years. The first one, you know, Bret Hart and Bam Bam Bigelow back in 93. The Rock and Ken Shamrock in 1998. Kurt Angle and Edge in 2001. I'm going to throw it in there. Baron Corbin and Chad Gable on Raw in the finals in 2019. I thought, and that went like almost 20 minutes. I thought they had a hell of a match that year. Randy Orton and Gunther a couple of years ago. So we've had some really good King of the Ring finals. Unfortunately, we've had more bad ones than good ones. I would even say the vast majority of these King of the Ring finals have been very underwhelming, very disappointing, or just flat out not good. And unfortunately, I think that the one that we had here on this show falls into that latter category, the unforgettable, right? The unforgettable and the forgettable, it falls into the forgettable category. There was nothing memorable about the King of the Ring final or the Queen of the Ring final on this show. In fact, you have these tournaments that build to these big finales, and it just feels like another match on the show. And so that sucks, because you would hope at a tournament, like, it would really build to the big climactic finale, and there would be something about that match that stands out, whether it's just a banger wrestling match, or there's just great drama, or something big. Like, there's got to be something to it. And there really wasn't. I will say this, though. They went the way of the Continental Classic. They took a page out of AEW with the way that they did these tournaments this year, or at least it worked out that way, where, you know how with the Continental title and the Continental Classic stuff, there's no outside interference allowed. I thought for sure in at least one, if not both of these matches, we were going to get somebody getting involved. There was going to be interference from the Judgment Day trying to help Liv Morgan. Brock Lesnar was going to show up, and he was going to try to fuck over Femi. And it was kind of refreshing. We didn't get any of that. We had two matches here in these finals where nobody got involved. It was just that, and maybe you thought that made it boring. I don't know. But like, it made for a clean finish in both cases, where it's like, oh, okay, that was kind of a pleasant surprise that I wasn't really expecting. But yes, Brock Lesnar did not show up on this show. The Judgment Day, outside of Liv, did not show up here on this show. There was no interference, and they got it right. Everybody was so worried, myself included, that they were going to go with King Yeet on this show. And we were going to get Jey Uso challenging for one of the world championships at SummerSlam. They were going to get cute. They were going to have Brock interfere. We're going to get Brock and Oba at SummerSlam, and Jey Uso was wrestling for a belt. And that would have been fucking awful. That would have been fucking terrible. And they didn't do that. They toyed with us. They toyed with us. They wanted us to sweat a little bit. But all that matters is that in the end, it was the right call. It was the obvious choice. It was very straightforward, the way they did it. And Femi is the King of the Ring. He has had quite the year so far. Beating Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania, now he's the King of the Ring. He is getting a push very similar to the one that Brock himself got when he first debuted in 2002. He's getting the Brock push. I'm all for the Brock push. You don't give the Brock push very often. You save it. If you're going to do it, it's a lot in a very short period of time for someone new. That could end up being a bad thing. The pendulum can swing the other way. It's too much too soon. The fans rebel, or the pressure is too much for the performer, right? You never really know. But every now and then there's a guy who comes along and you just look at him and you know, okay, this is going to be the guy. So let's just go all the way with him. Let's not fuck around. Femi wrestling for the Intercontinental title. Who needs to see that? Femi wrestling for the United States Championship. Who gives a shit? He's bigger than that. Literally. The big guy. So here he is now, challenging for one of the two world championships in his first SummerSlam. And the only question is, which title is it going to be? And the Queen of the Ring, Liv Morgan, Io Sky, Queen Io. We now have Queen Io. And Io will be challenging. We already know what championship she's challenging for. She already told Liv Morgan, I'll see you at SummerSlam. So we had our first match made official for SummerSlam this year. Liv Morgan will defend the Women's World Championship against Io Sky. And that's great. We actually had a second SummerSlam match that we're going to get as well. It's not official, but after what happened here on this show, it's pretty clear what the other, not for a title, but what the other women's match on that show is going to be. Now, as much as I can heap praise upon them for getting it right when it comes to the outcomes of these matches, I can't help but sit here and also say, as a fan of the King of the Ring, I wish they, as much as they got the outcome right, I wish they would have gotten the tournament right. Because Jey Uso never should have been in the finals to begin with. Of all of the options that were available to them. And again, you could have had Femi in there with any number of people who were in the tournament, people who were not even in the tournament, but there were a lot of better options for a finals match that would have given us a better match, that would have given us, I think, a more exciting conclusion. And they went with what I thought was, frankly, the most boring of all the options available to them. Liv Morgan had no business even being in the Queen of the Ring tournament. She's the women's world champion. She should not have been in there in the first place. She took up a spot that could have gone to somebody else and made no sense that she was even in there to begin with. So I wish they would have taken greater care in when they put these tournaments together, figuring out, okay, what are the best possible options that we have here to make for the most interesting, exciting tournament, great matches to where it really feels like every match is a battle. And this thing really matters, in a major way. And I thought they fell short of that just with, some of the choices they made along the way as far as this stuff goes. We had a steel cage match on this show. I'm going to take my crown off now. What do you think? Do you accept me as your king? Will you bow down and send a super chat? Let's talk about the cage match. We had a steel cage match on this show with Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker. This was the blow-off, finally. Hallelujah. Between Seth Rollins and the Vision. And we still don't know who's going to be challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam, but Seth Rollins is definitely got to be one of the top, I'd say, 2 options of who's going to get Roman Reigns on that show. And if that's the case, then he had to win tonight. But I understand people being upset that Bron Breakker did not win. Came into this match, Seth Rollins was basically saying, let's see what you're made of, kid. Let's see what you got. And then Bron Breakker went in there, and he lost. He got beat by Seth Rollins. Now, I didn't look at how they did it as any sort of burial, but I look at it, and I do question now, what's next for this guy? It could end up being a burial, depending on how they follow up on this. He could very easily fall through the cracks, and that would be a terrible thing. So I think it's too early to judge exactly where he's going to end up here in the second half of the year. I don't see there being a lot of great options, though, heading into SummerSlam and beyond for Bron Breakker. But if Seth Rollins is going to challenge for the World Heavyweight Championship, it only made sense for him to win this match. If you're going to build him up for a championship match, that's the way it has to be done. It's no different. I got a question the other night here on one of these streams from somebody asking me, it might have been SmackDown last night. And somebody asked me, well, do you think there's a chance that Zack Sabre Jr. might beat Kenny Omega at Forbidden Door tomorrow? And I'm like, well, I sure as fuck hope not. That would be fucking terrible. If Kenny Omega is going to be challenging for the AEW World title next month, he needs to win. That's the way it should work. But Bron Breakker is in a weird place now because I honestly look at Bron Breakker and think the best course of action here is to turn him babyface and get him away from the Vision. Because if he sticks with the Vision as it's currently constructed, I don't really see a good place to go with him. It's going to be very, very important how they decide to follow up on this. There was another negative about this show, which is that the fans in Riyadh did not give a single shit about any of the women's matches on this show. There were a few matches. I mean, frankly, even, a good chunk of the cage match, but the women's matches in particular, it was very noticeable. The Queen of the Ring final, the women's US title match, they did not give a shit. They did not care. But for the fun spots that EO usually does, they pop for EO winning at the finish. They did pop for that. But a lot of stuff on the undercard, the women in particular, the men's US title match, they didn't give a shit. And it really brought the show down. But again, I can't put the full blame on them because what they got wasn't really terribly exciting. I said before, I didn't think overall this was really that good of a show. I was fucking bored for most of it. And the matches that we got were not great. They were not great outside of the main event. The main event saved that show. If you take that main event away and you have a main event very similar to the matches that we were getting on the undercard where it's it's a solid match, this is an automatic thumbs down show. I mean, there was somebody who said to me, Solomonster, Oba and Jay was so much better than I thought it would be. 4-star. I'm like, what are you talking about? 4 stars? Are you out of your mind? Outside of the main event, there was nothing on this show. The cage match, I will say, and I did not hate the cage match. The cage match was very boring for the first half. Very slow, not a whole lot going on. unacceptable for a match that was supposed to be this big blow off to like a grudge feud. And then in the final, like, I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes or whatever, it really picked up, and I liked what they did there at the end. But were it not for that main event, boy, this would have been terrible. The main event really did make this show. Very much so. We're going to talk about all of it, though. This is your Night of Champions 2026 review. I am the Solomonster. I am King Solomonster. Very happy that you can join me here on a Saturday afternoon, a lot earlier than usual, but such is the case with these Saudi shows, which air early. It's going to be very, very much the same with WrestleMania next year. We're going to get WrestleMania at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, so get used to it. Like and subscribe. Super chats are open, and they are the lifeblood of the channel. I do appreciate all of the support that you throw my way. You guys are awesome. I appreciate all of the support. I will say I did see something on social media before about an outage with Streamlabs, which if that's the case, it sounds like it might be a widespread outage. That means nothing is going to pop up on screen. So I am going to see all of your messages and I will read them, but they may not be popping up on the screen, unfortunately. But it seems to be a widespread Streamlabs thing, so just be aware of that. If you don't see them and you're wondering where they are, don't blame me. But they are coming through. Let's bring up the wheel and take it for a spin. Let's see how many likes we need. We do have a bonus goal in the chat, by the way, a bonus super chat goal. We're already halfway there. If we hit that goal, we'll do bonus Be the Booker. But let's find out how many likes we need to do B2B, which is a fun little thing we do here on these streams. If we hit our goal, let's find out. 450, a modest goal. I have a feeling we're not going to have an issue with that. I have a feeling that that's not going to be a problem. We are already up to 385. So 450 is the goal. You guys know what to do. Go ahead and hit that thumbs up. I do want to acknowledge, I know we got a, I believe, let me see here if it's who it was from. But I believe we got a Gunther bomb. We did. We got a Gunther bomb here from Eric the Sean, who dropped a $50 super chat. Let me bring it up in a separate window. So I'm going to read his now, because that is a big one. That's what she said. Congratulations to Sammy for finally winning the big one. Honestly, wish it would have happened a little bit sooner, but I guess it's better than never. Does this pave the way for a Kevin Owens return to either congratulate Sammy or attack him? See, great minds think alike here. These two men will forever be linked. If one has success, automatically you got to think about the other one, right? Is the other one going to turn on them? Is the other one going to, be happy for them? Are they going to be partners again? I just don't know where he is in terms of his recovery and getting cleared. That was my first thought, honestly. It's like, how can they weave Kevin Owens into this? Because he's a SmackDown guy too, but I just don't know if I don't know that he's medically clear, but that doesn't necessarily mean he can't show up on TV. He may not be able to wrestle, but if they can figure out a way to kind of work him into a story on TV, then who knows? We may see him. But Eric, thank you, brother. I appreciate that. Michael Cole and Corey Graves, they were on the call here for this show. Michael Cole's audio at the beginning of the show was noticeably clipping. Anytime he yelled, he sounded like a YouTuber. So anytime he yelled, he was clipping. And Corey Graves' audio also was kind of cutting in and out. It was very low at one point. There was a lot of weird stuff going on with the audio. I think they fixed Cole's problem about halfway through. But then we had more audio problems at the end during the main event because the announce desk got taken out, which we'll get to. But they opened this show first hour on ESPN with the King of the Ring final between Oba Femi and Jey Uso. So Jey came out first. He yeeted his way down to the ring. And then it was Oba. There was a random burst of pyro off camera for some reason, or a concussion, I guess is what they call them. I don't know what that was about. It sounded like a cannon went off, and nobody really acknowledged it. And then we were underway, and the match began. We got a right hand from Jay that only stunned Oba, who mowed him down with a shoulder block. Jay ducked outside. Oba went out after him, and so Jay sent him into the ring post. Then he got back inside. He hit Oba with a suicide dive. And then another one, a third one got cut off. Oba hoisted him up. He was going to give him a shoulder breaker, and he did. And on commentary, I noticed at this point, we were already up to about 3 or 4 mentions, 3 or 4 name drops of Brock Lesnar on comment. Just various references to Brock Lesnar and Oba's previous battles with him. And I was like, they're sure mentioning his name an awful lot, which takes away, if he's going to show up as a surprise, you wouldn't want to mention his name. You wouldn't even want people to have Brock Lesnar on the brain. So the fact that they mentioned him several times during this match was very noticeable to me that maybe we're not going to see him here. So Oba got him up for a fall from grace, and he fell down on his butt like he normally would, but before he fell down on his ass, Jay had slipped out. He slipped out behind him, and so he gave him a super kick to the back of the head. He went up top. He hit an Uso splash. Not even a 1 count, though, because Oba reached up and he goozled him. He grabbed him by the throat. Oba planted him then after this with a choke slam for a 2 count. There were multiple super kicks by Jay as he fought back. And then there was a spear that took down Oba. Jay goes up top. He lands another Uso splash, but he didn't go for the pin. He didn't follow up with the pin, which was very strange. And the announcers pointed out that, well, he may have hurt his ribs on the way down. I'm like, well, he never hurts his ribs before when he does the splash. And then they also floated the possibility that he may be exhausted, and that's a little more believable. I don't think anybody would be too shocked to find out if Jey Uso was exhausted by this point in the match. So anyway, he didn't follow up with a pin. Both men were down. So he went up top. He hit a second Uso splash. This time he covered. Oba kicked out at 2. Jay got a sleeper hold applied on the mat, and they pointed out on commentary it's the same move that he used to beat Gunther to win the world championship. Yeah, you don't have to remind us. We remember that. We're never going to forget the ending of that match and the way that went down. Oba, though, made it back up to his feet very easily. He broke free. Pair of running uppercuts, then dropped Jay. He hoisted him up. He bealed him. And now it's time for the fall from grace. And I'm waiting. I'm just waiting for the fuckery. I'm like, okay, something's about to happen here. Someone's coming out. Brock's showing up. Something's going to happen here. Gets him up for the fall from grace. Down goes Jey Uso. And Oba Femi pins Jey Uso. Clean as a sheet. 1, 2, 3 in the middle of the ring, about 8 minutes in, to become the king of the ring. Nick Aldis was there to present the crown to Oba. Not as nice as this one right here. He presented the crown. Honestly, it's probably made of the same plastic as this one is. You know those fucking crowns are just cheap as fuck. So Adam Pearce wasn't there for whatever reason, but Nick Aldis was. And so he presents the crown to Oba, who never put it on his head. Neither did Gunther, now that I think about it. They probably didn't want them to look ridiculous with it on their head. Interestingly, Cody had no problem putting the crown on his head and looking silly. But I don't think Oba ever actually put the crown on his head. Byron Saxton got in the ring to interview him. Oba said, "It feels good to go from being the ruler to being the king." He said, "You can't beat destiny. And most importantly, you can't beat him. He is the mountain that you cannot conquer. He is the beast slayer. He is the king of the ring, Oba Femi." And I'm just sitting here and I'm thinking to myself, thank God, common sense prevailed. At the end of the day, they made the right move. There really only should have been one outcome to this. It was the obvious one, but they got a lot of people very worried. Because the bloodline, right, is the end-all be-all in this company. And Jay had gotten this renewed singles push lately. And he made it all the way to the finals. And we knew Brock was lurking. We didn't know if he was going to show up or not. This match was only going to go one of 2 ways. Right? Either Oba wins or Jay wins. Duh, obviously. But as far as how, Jay only wins if Brock interferes. If Brock Lesnar shows up, that's how Jey Uso wins. So either Brock shows up or he doesn't. And if he doesn't, then Oba wins. And that's what they did. No interference, no shenanigans, no fuckery here. And again, them name dropping Brock all those times to me was kind of a giveaway that he probably wasn't going to show. I mean, I wasn't 100% sure, but by the third or fourth mention of Brock Lesnar, I was pretty sure that he wasn't showing up here in this match. Now, look, some people are going to quibble, I'm sure, over how much offense Jay got. It went 8 minutes. They gave him a lot in this match, and he got a bunch of near falls. That doesn't bother me because, of course, they're going to give him offense here. I know that there are a lot of people out there who don't either like Jey Uso or who just don't feel like he is someone who should be in the position that he's in, where he's, main eventing stuff on his own, right? Been there, done that. And I'm kind of in the same camp. I'm over it. I don't hate Jey Uso, but he had no business being in this match. He certainly had no business beating Femi and going on to the main event at SummerSlam. But at the same time, I also understand, like, he's still super over. He comes out, the people yeet, the kids yeet, he moves a lot of merch. I get it. He's part of the bloodline. Of course, he's always going to be in that top mix. You have to expect that they're going to give him something here, especially if they're going to beat him clean. They're at least going to make him look strong before then. So it's not the end of the world. It's not a big deal. The only thing that matters here is that Oba won. I don't give a shit that Jey Uso, I mean, he could have had 95% of the match, as stupid as that would have been. The only thing that mattered here, who goes over. And at the end, the right man went over. So that's the thing. Now, again, my main issue, I mentioned it at the top. You could have done Femi and Bron Breakker. You could have done Femi and Seth Rollins. We know why they didn't, because they wanted to have Rollins and Breakker wrestle each other on this show. You could have done Femi and Royce Keys. You could have done Femi and Javon Evans, and you would have gotten a much better match out of it. I think that would have been more interesting. I think we would have gotten a better wrestling match out of it. It would have been maybe a little more exciting in that way. So I just think, as King of the Ring finals go, this one was very unremarkable. This one was very underwhelming. It was a perfectly fine television match that you would see on any given episode of Raw or SmackDown. But I would expect a little bit more out of a PLE match. I would expect a little bit more out of a King of the Ring final, any tournament final. So that was my other issue with this. Now, the announcers were wondering which champion is Oba going to choose for SummerSlam, because you have the choice now. I don't think they've really done it that way before. We didn't get our answer. They're going to make us wait at least until Monday, if not longer. I would think Monday. We may well get our answer on Monday. Roman Reigns is back on the show in Atlantic City on Monday. Early start time, by the way, 6 p.m. Just be aware, because they're taping Raw and SmackDown on Monday to give all the wrestlers off later in the week for July 4th. So 6 p.m. Raw on Netflix, just so you're aware. Roman is back on the show. We may get our answer then. We may get our first face-to-face in the ring between Roman and Oba, which honestly, what else is Oba going to do? You know what I mean? Like, you would think he would show up and confront Roman Reigns. But like, to me, there's no mystery to it. We had Oba in the ring on Raw last week polling the audience. He put both options out there. Which champion should I challenge for SummerSlam after I become king? And he mentioned, should I go after the WWE Championship? And the reaction was kind of lukewarm. And he said, and he saved it for last, should I go after the World Heavyweight Championship? And everybody cheered wildly. So we know what the fans would like to see him do, right? We know which champion we as the fans, by and large, would like to see him go after. But I also feel like in his promo that he had with Jey Uso, he made it pretty clear. You know, he told Jey basically, go tell your cousin, right? He was telling us basically who he's going after. So I think we all know what the answer is. It's going to be Roman and Oba, hopefully, at SummerSlam. If by chance, though, he doesn't go after Roman, I would think Seth Rollins would be the most likely option. Because honestly, if Oba picks Roman, I don't know what Rollins, we're talking about Bron Breakker. I don't know what Rollins does at SummerSlam if it's not Rollins and Roman. Plus, Bronson Reed is going to be back in the next month, and they want to do Rollins and Reed, which I feel like we've already done. If he's not wrestling for the World Championship, I don't even know what he would be doing. It seems to me like there are a couple of options that seem very likely now that we know who the King of the Ring is. This idea has been discussed and I know we've talked about it on TNT, I've talked about it on my end, of having Oba wrestle twice. Right? Having Oba wrestle twice. And actually, that's a great point in the chat. Zorro makes a very good point. I forgot about that. Seth and Jacob. That's a great point. I mentioned on Raw, not this past Monday, but the week before, the last time Roman was on the show, if you remember that last segment in the back, because Jacob had gone out there. I think he gave LA Knight the spike and he beat up Eric Andre and everything. And Roman told him, there's one thing left I need you to do. And remember, he whispered something in his ear. And the only words I could really make out if you're a lip reader was kill him. Right? He was talking about someone, whoever it was, kill him. But I thought that I had heard, like I rewatched it and I leaned in, and I thought before that I heard Roman say the name Seth Rollins. It sounded to me like he had mentioned Seth's name, which I was thinking about, like, all right, well, they're not really actively feuding. Does that even make sense? But boy, it sure sounded to me like he mentioned Seth Rollins. So you may be onto something there. If I was right about that, and he was talking about Seth, then we may see Jacob attack Seth as early as Raw on Monday. So that's a good point. Seth and Jacob could be the match. Are we looking at Oba wrestling twice at SummerSlam? You got 2 nights of SummerSlam. We know Brock and Oba are going to wrestle again at some point. If they want Brock in a match in Minneapolis, an actual match, the only match is against Oba. Like, that's it. He's not wrestling Gunther. He's not wrestling anybody but Oba Femi if Brock Lesnar wrestles on that show. Do we get that on one night? And do we get Oba challenging Roman on the other night? Right? Seems like a very realistic possibility. There's another possibility, which is that we get Oba and Roman, and they're not quite ready to put the championship on Oba yet, or take it off Roman. And they do a finish where Brock doesn't wrestle, but he shows up at SummerSlam. And he costs Oba Femi the World Heavyweight Championship. We all thought that he was going to cost him the King of the Ring. He cost him something even bigger than that. He cost him the world title, which then allows Oba and Brock to go off to have their rematch and finish their feud. And you put off the coronation of Oba Femi until Saudi Mania next year, WrestleMania 43. That, to me, honestly, that seems like the likeliest scenario. As I sit here right now and I mull all of this over, I think that there's a very, very good possibility of that happening. Which, again, it's not like we haven't seen that in years past where they don't want to crown somebody at SummerSlam. So they want to hold it off until WrestleMania. That was the idea with Luger back in 93. He went on this whole bus tour the whole summer. Everything was building to him winning the world championship from Yokozuna. And he didn't. And he didn't. And then we found out the stipulation was that you can't challenge for the title again. He won the Rumble to get around that. But the idea was that Vince didn't want to crown him at SummerSlam. He wanted to hold off on it until WrestleMania 10. But shit happened in the meantime and plans changed. Look at Daniel Bryan back in 2013. He actually did win the belt, lost it the same night. And as things turned out, he won the championship at WrestleMania. So it's not like we haven't seen this sort of thing before. So I think those are the options that we're looking at right now. But I can't see Oba picking anybody but Roman Reigns, just based on what we saw and heard from him on Monday night. That would seem to be the direction here. Now, after a 4-minute break, we were supposed to have the finals of the Queen of the Ring, with the Women's World Champion Liv Morgan taking on Io Sky. Boy, they were really running through these finals, weren't they? They wanted to fit everything in that first hour on ESPN and just be done with this stuff, which I guess I can understand. You know, you kind of do this, you front load it with the King and Queen of the Ring stuff, pad it in the middle, and then you close with the WWE Championship. So I guess that kind of makes sense. But instead, before any of the women can come out, we had Danhausen, who is not a woman, at least not to my knowledge, but he came out on stage and he said, hello to Rehadhausen, right? Is that what he said? Rehadhausen? Rehadhausen? I don't know what he said. He said he's recently come into a large amount of human monies. But before he could continue, Liv Morgan made her entrance for the next match. And she stopped on stage And she confronted Danhausen and said, speaking of money, you owe the Judgment Day a whole lot of money. And if you don't give it back, a lot of bad things are going to happen to you. So Danhausen said, I have no idea what you're talking about. And then he placed a curse. He placed a curse on Liv Morgan. And so Liv smacked the shit out of him and then continued on with her entrance. So before Io Sky even came out, before Io Sky even made her way to the ring, she already won Queen of the Ring. We already knew how this was going to end. They gave away the finish. Io tried for a sunset flip powerbomb to the floor early on. Liv blocked it. And on the floor, Io came off the barricade with a crossbody and she was celebrating. But Liv sent her headfirst into the ring post. Morgan went for a Boston Crab. Actually, before that, Liv, she hit the Three Amigos. And then an enziguri to the back of the head when Io was trying to get up. Got to get that Three Amigos reference in there. Morgan went for a Boston Crab. She leaned too far back, though. And Io rolled through, and she jumped up, gave her a standing double stomp. Io came off the top rope with a missile drop kick. Liv was able to escape a double underhook into a backstabber. Io, though, rolled out to the floor. So Liv went for a dive. Io cut her off with a forearm, and Io hit a springboard moonsault to the floor. Back inside, Io dropped Liv with a double underhook into a backbreaker for a near fall. She went to the top. She was setting up for the big moonsault, but she had her back turned to Liv, and so Liv was able to shove her off, and Io landed on the steps. Now, she landed perfectly on the steps, right? She didn't land and her leg bent or anything, right? But she was supposed to sell that she tweaked her knee. It didn't look like anything at all, but she had to sell it that way. And so she's laying on the floor outside, and she's writhing around now in pain. And Liv, of course, hones in on that like a shark tasting blood. And she goes in and she starts to work over the knee. She locked in a half crab, same way that she did when she beat Charlotte Flair to advance in the Queen of the Ring. Io tried to get to the ropes. Liv, though, dragged her back to the center of the ring. Io escaped. Liv hit a code breaker out of what at first looked like an attempt at an oblivion. Morgan, though, did go for oblivion. Io avoided it. Liv got caught up in the ropes. Io went for a dive off the middle rope. She missed. Again, she jammed her knee. Liv and Io, they were fighting up top. Io landed a top rope Spanish fly before racing back up to the top to hit her over the moonsault to win the match and the crown. And after Nick Aldis presented Io with her crown, Byron Saxton got in the ring and asked her, how does it feel to be the 2026 Queen of the Ring? And she said, yes, I am the queen. And then she said, Liv, who is sitting in the aisle, licking her wound, she goes, Liv, I'll see you at SummerSlam. She was like, I ain't going to SmackDown. I don't want to have anything to do with SmackDown. I'm perfectly content where I am on Raw. Don't send me over there. I'm staying put. She didn't need any time to make her decision. I don't blame her. She wanted nothing to do with SmackDown. She said, the hell with that. I thought the match itself was solid. I thought this was a better match than Oba and Jay, easily. And not just because it was twice as long. I actually think it didn't need to go as long as it did. It was kind of dragging a little bit, but they had the better match. This was a better match than Oba and Jay had. But neither of these finals, again, that's my issue with it. Neither of these finals rose to the level of anything truly memorable or that you would look back on and go, man, that was a great, like, what a great match to pay off this tournament. Unfortunately, this year we didn't get that. We got that with Gunther and Randy a few years ago. We didn't get that this year with either one. And the crowd was very flat. Again, outside for some of the stuff that Io was doing in the finish, they were very flat for this. Doing the Danhausen bit right before this, I know they think that that's cute and everything. It does give the finish away, though. I mean, look, anybody with a brain who's been following this week to week, you had no reason to believe that Liv Morgan was going to win this tournament. Okay, there was a very low probability to begin with that Liv was going to win. I think Io was the safe choice. But once they did that bit, before the match, that just, kind of gave the store away right there. The other thing also that I thought was weird and I didn't like, they spent the latter part of the match after she tweaked her knee Io is screaming and selling, and Liv is working it over, and she's got the half crab like she's fucking Lance Storm. And she's trying to sell this knee injury, but then she hits the top rope. She hits this avalanche Spanish fly, lands on her knees, by the way, flat when she does, immediately gets back up, races back to the top rope, and hits her moonsault, again, landing on her knees. And I'm like, okay, well, that was kind of dumb. I mean, if you're going to have her all of a sudden start selling the leg, and then the last two big spots of the match just totally no-sells it. So that's my little minor nitpick of that. But Io choosing Liv, to me, that was the expected decision. I'm surprised that there were people. I got some replies and mentions about this from people. Do you wish that she would have picked Rhea? And I just kind of look at it and I go, you can make sense of it by saying that Rhea has never been able to beat Io. They still have that story at some point they have to explore. At some point, Rhea has to get her win over Io. Maybe at WrestleMania one day. So if you want to look at it from that perspective, Io could go, Rhea, I love you, but I want to challenge for your championship because you've never beaten me. I guess you can make sense of it that way, but I just look at it and go, these two have been portrayed as like the best of friends, right, on television. What a shitty friend if Io was to pick Rhea. Like, why would she pick Rhea? That just never made any sense to me. And also, I just figured they don't want them back on the same show. So it always felt to me like if Io actually pulls this out, she's just going to have a rematch with Liv. If she beat her once, I could beat you again, right? And then she'll challenge for the world championship at SummerSlam. So I think that's the right move. We don't even know what Rhea's status is going to be. They're talking about her on television like she's going to be there at SummerSlam. I don't even know if they know. Last we heard a couple weeks ago on TV, they said that she was undergoing treatment and they were waiting to see if the treatment worked. We don't even know what the injury is. It's 50-50 right now, right down the middle. Nobody knows. Rhea Ripley may wrestle at SummerSlam. She may not wrestle at SummerSlam. But I don't think that even factored into this. Even if she's 100% healthy, I never really felt like that was going to be the match to do. What does this mean for Liv in the Judgment Day? Is she going to be upset that Raquel and Roxanne weren't there to help her and support her? I think that's very likely. Is she actually going to defend her championship at SummerSlam? Is she going to defend her championship before SummerSlam? I mean, we have to expect that Liv will still be champion by SummerSlam. I mean, that seems pretty likely. But is she going to defend her title at all before SummerSlam? Liv Morgan has been the champion since WrestleMania. We are looking at a situation where it is entirely possible that by the time we get to SummerSlam, Liv Morgan will have been champion since WrestleMania without a single title defense, which is completely preposterous. Like, that is so unbelievably stupid. I don't even know where to begin. Stephanie Vaquer gets hurt. She disappears. Everything falls apart. Oh my God, we have nobody for Liv Morgan to wrestle. We'll just have her keep the belt warm for a few months. What is that stretch? April to August, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 months of no title defenses. Good job. She may well end up beating the Jade Cargill record. I think Jade went a little over 100 days without defending her championship. Exciting stuff, let me tell you. Boy, that sure is riveting stuff. For a company that has all these PLEs and they have hours of weekly television every single week, and you have a champion who's probably going to go 4 months without a single title defense. That's really exciting stuff. Good job. And then Stephanie Vaquer, I don't know how she may factor into things. We may get Stephanie back on television very soon. Maybe Stephanie is going to be added to this. I mentioned last week the possibility that maybe they can somehow work themselves into a situation where it's not one-on-one. Maybe it's a triple threat match at SummerSlam if they can get Stephanie back. I don't know what's going on with Stephanie. I know she was hurt. She's got to be okay by now. I mean, is she the victim of visa issues? We've heard rumors of certain talents being affected by visa issues. We don't know. It's like the Ilya Dragunov thing. Like, he just completely vanished from television. Vanished. I have to assume there's a reason for that. And I don't believe it's injury related. Again, maybe he's the victim of visa issues as well. The way some people just kind of dropped off the face of the earth and they haven't even been mentioned or used in any capacity on television, there's clearly something else going on here. And so ended the ESPN portion of this broadcast. And after several minutes of commercials and bullshit, it was finally time for another wrestling match. A steel cage match between Seth Rollins and Bron Breakker, and what we were told was only Bron Breakker's second cage match, the second steel cage match that Bron Breakker has ever been in. What happened to Jordan Grace? Well, Jordan Grace, I don't think that's a visa issue. Was she Canadian? I don't know. Is Jordan Grace Canadian? Who knows? Maybe there is a visa issue with her. I don't know. I know she's been trying to get her pilot's license, and she just got informed that she's not going to be able to get it because they found out she has ADHD. So now she has to jump through all kinds of bureaucratic hoops, and she has to pay out of her own pocket thousands of dollars, like at least $5,000 or more for some sort of test, and it's a whole thing. But I'm like, she's really like seriously into all that. I'm like, is she going to be wrestling anymore? She's been wrestling on Main Event. They just haven't been using her on TV. So yeah, I imagine there's no visa issue with Jordan Grace if she's wrestling on Main Event. That one I can't explain. Why she hasn't been on television, like on SmackDown, I have no fucking idea. I have no good answer for you. None whatsoever. Shift her over to Raw. At least that'll give Liv Morgan somebody to work with. It's too late now. So the first thing that Rollins did when he came down was he tossed a bunch of kendo sticks and assorted weapons into the cage. You know what the biggest shock to me was? This might have been the biggest shock on the entire show. The tables that were in the ring, in the cage, no Slim Jim logo. I was amazed by this. No Slim Jim tables on this show. It makes me wonder, maybe Slim Jim paused their sponsorship again with all these rumors that have been going around about Vince McMahon, and maybe he'll come back to WWE. They're preemptively pausing their sponsorship to make sure that doesn't happen. I don't know, but there were no Slim Jim tables. So Breakker came out. He did the same thing when he entered. He went under the ring for all the toys, the chairs and the kendo sticks and a garbage can, and he brought it in the ring with him. They started the match. They were each sitting down facing each other from across the ring in a chair. And Rollins was talking all kinds of shit. Then they rose to their feet and they started throwing hands. I thought the first half of this match was very boring. It was slow. It was plotting. There wasn't a whole lot going on. My issue with it was that sense of urgency and anger. This is supposed to be a grudge match. These men have been feuding for months. It all goes back to last year when Rollins got kicked out of the Vision. And then recently, Seth Rollins bounced out of the King of the Ring tournament, loses his opportunity potentially to challenge for a world championship at SummerSlam because of Bron Breakker. Seth turns around. He cost Bron Breakker the tag team titles with Austin Theory. There's a lot of bad blood between these two men. And they're just having a boring wrestling match with a bunch of random weapons inside the cage. And I'm like, well, this is fucking boring. So to me, that was the story of the first half of this match. I didn't get the sense that these two men were in some sort of blood feud with each other. Rollins tried to bury Breakker. Funny, I wrote that. Subconsciously, maybe. He tried to bury Breakker in a pile of chairs, and he went to the top. Breakker, though, cut Rollins off, and Rollins shoved him down. Breakker, though, he ran right back up the ropes, and he hit a Breakensteiner. Picture perfect, too, because Rollins went flying, and he landed perfectly right on the pile of chairs. I thought that looked good. This is where the match finally started to really pick up. Breakker told Rollins, "You're gonna die." He yelled at him multiple times, "You're gonna die." Tell me what song that's from. Welcome to the jungle, baby. Welcome to the jungle. You're gonna die. So, in fact, Seth Rollins did not die. Although Bron Breakker's career may have died, depending on where they go with him coming out of this show. So Breakker, he tells him this. He wedges Rollins' head between a chair. And he took a golf swing with another chair. But Rollins had gotten out of the way in time. Rollins super kicked the chair into Breakker's head. Then he charged at him. Breaker just mauled him, though, with a spear for a near fall. If I didn't mention it before, the rules for this match, pinfall, submission, and escape the cage. You can win by any of those methods. So Breaker set Rollins up on a table. He climbed to the top rope. He looked down. Then he looks up, and he says, I'm going to go to the top here. So he climbs to the very top of this cage. Rollins follows him up there. They're both sitting up there. Yay, boo, back and forth. Rollins rakes his eyes, and then he superplexes Breaker from the top of the cage. Now, he wasn't standing on top of the cage. I have to just clarify that, because that would be insane. Rollins was standing on the ropes. Breaker was kind of draped over the cage, and it's still very impressive and still very dangerous. But he superplexed him off the top of the cage down through the table. Somewhere in all of this, and I did not see how it happened. It may have been as simple as him getting, because I think Rollins had a cut on his, unless that was Bron's blood, it may have been. He had a little bit of blood on his back, like over his shoulder blade. But Breaker, somehow in all of this, and I don't know if it was, again, on the spot or right before the spot, he got busted open by his eye and was bleeding quite a bit. And so he was wearing, I would say, half of a crimson mask. He looked two-faced. One half of his face was fine. The other half of his face was drenched in blood. Rollins went for a stomp, but he charged right into a hard lariat instead. Breaker then hit the ropes a few times. He cut Rollins down with a spear. Even still, Rollins kicked out at 2. So Breaker headed for the door. And I just thought, boy, somewhere Jesse Ventura, who I would bet my life was not watching this show, but all of a sudden his ears started ringing. Somebody's trying to escape through the door. He was trying to get out. Rollins grabbed his foot to prevent him from exiting. Rollins dragged Breaker back. He kind of had him in the rope. He was pulling back on his head in such a way where he was using the ropes to basically kind of choke him. And he was talking all kinds of shit. And Breaker just reaches out and grabs the door, the mesh door, and just pulls it forward and rams Rollins right in the head with the cage door. So Breaker sets up for a spear in the corner. Rollins moves out of the way at the last minute, and Breaker crashes through a table that was set up in the corner. Then Rollins hit a pedigree and then a stomp, and they had me. I thought that was it. I thought that was the end of the match. Breaker kicked out. And this is what I mean when I mentioned earlier that even though he lost, they did certain things in this match to keep him strong, to portray him in a very strong way. I thought the match was over at that point, and he kicked out. Rollins set up for another stomp. Breaker, though, who was on his knees, he put his hand up, and Rollins stopped in his tracks. And this was a little awkward. I'm like, why is Rollins waiting to see what he's going to do? Just fucking kill this man. Just end this. And I thought Breaker was going to do one of those things where it's like he kind of accepts his fate. Kind of like the Malachi Black thing in his last match in AEW, or what I think was his last match in AEW with, was it Cole? Was it Adam Cole? Might have been Adam Cole. Where it's sort of like you accept your fate, do what you got to do. But that's not really what it was. Instead, he was taking a moment, and then all of a sudden he starts psyching himself up, and he's getting back to his feet. He gets back to his feet. He's kind of hunched over. It's pretty clear what they're setting up for here. Rollins comes off the middle rope with like kind of a super stomp. I guess a super stomp would be from the top rope. This was kind of sort of a super stomp. But he stomped him out, and that got him the 3 count. It started off slow. It picked up very well there towards the end. The blood added a lot to this. It really did. Blood in a cage match is always welcome. Like blood in a cage match, there should be blood in a cage match, whether it's steel cage, Hell in a Cell, War Games, blood and guts. The word blood is literally in the name. Blood is appropriate in matches like that, right? Within reason. Obviously, we're going to get buckets of it tomorrow night. You're going to have 12 men in one cage. I can only imagine it's going to be a fucking bloodbath tomorrow night. It worked here, though. It was effective here because we don't get to see it very often in WWE. And I don't mean like a trickle of blood. Like, again, half his face was like caked in blood here. And it just added to it. It added so much more. Even if it was incidental and it was not intentional, the blood, I think, really added something that it would not have had without it. Rollins winning, a questionable decision. not an unexpected one. Questionable in that he came into this saying that this is the match that would test what Bron Breakker can really do. And then Breakker goes in there and he loses. Now, you could say that he looked strong in defeat and it took a lot to put him down, right? It took a super stomp at the end, but still, he lost. He came in talking a lot of shit, just like Rollins, and he wasn't able to back it up. And that's going to hurt. It's not going to bury him, but it's going to hurt him. The key is in the follow-up. If he shows up on Raw on Monday night and he's a man possessed, or maybe they begin some sort of angle where he's having a falling out with the Vision, he can't be controlled. Heyman hasn't been there. Heyman, is not there to control him. Like, there are ways that they could, coming out of this, kind of build him up as this unstoppable force who, this loss just sets something off within him. But I feel like I have deja vu as I sit here and I say this. I'm trying to think what I feel like I had said something similar. Maybe it was after he lost to Punk at the beginning of the year. And they didn't do what I was hoping they would do. I don't have a lot of faith they're going to do it now either. But I think it's something that they need to. Because otherwise, if he just kind of goes back and falls in line with the other remaining members of the Vision, whoever's left, what does he do? You know what I mean? Like, he only ended up as one half of the tag team champions because Logan Paul got hurt. And he didn't need the tag team titles, which he doesn't have now anyway. Do you want to build something with him and Penta for the Intercontinental title? You could, but I don't like that idea because Chad Gable should be the one challenging Penta for the Intercontinental Championship at SummerSlam, not Bron Breakker. If it's a matter of you could only pick one or the other, I'm going with Chad Gable. So if he's not wrestling for the world title, he's not wrestling for the Intercontinental title, half the fucking group that he's a part of is injured. He just lost the feud to Rollins. I don't know where you go with Bron Breakker. Other than just, again, let him just fucking snap and just start wrecking shit. And you can figure it out, like what that next move is going to be. I look at this and my feeling is that a babyface turn and a split from the Vision is what this guy needs. The Vision is a dead faction. I mean, I don't care if Paul Heyman is with them or not. I don't give a shit. The Vision sucks. The Vision is a terrible group. The Vision is a dead end for Bron Breakker. Bron Breakker, I feel like, is actually less over now than he was at the beginning of the year. I don't really see how it's benefited him. So I think transitioning him into a babyface turn, tweener, whatever you want to call it, that, to me, that's the only way to go. How they go about doing it, I don't know. But I think that's what he's going to need. That'll take the sting away from him losing this feud. I say that a lot about like any turn. If there's somebody who's about to turn heel, let's say, turn babyface, if they just lost a big match, but you're going to turn them, the loss doesn't matter. Right? Turning can cure all ills in that regard. He just lost the blow off to Seth Rollins. If he's going to turn or have some sort of fallout with the Vision, and then who knows, maybe he can feud with Bronson Reed when Reed comes back, then this will be forgotten and he'll be better off for it. But we look at SummerSlam in Minneapolis. I don't know what he would be doing on that show. I honestly don't know. I don't know. But if Rollins is going to be challenging Roman Reigns for the World Championship, then this was the right decision to make. If Rollins is not challenging for the World Heavyweight Championship at SummerSlam, then I think this was a very dumb decision. And Bron Breakker should have won this match. I can't answer that question, though, 100% until I know what the direction is going to be with Rollins. But he finally puts the Vision in the rear view. Thank God. Thank God we're done. We're done. We're done with Rollins and the Vision. The MFTs just broke up. It feels to me like the world is healing, right? Don't you get that feeling? The world is healing bit by bit. Trick Williams with Lil Yachty defending the United States Championship against Ricky Saints. Saints jumped Trick before the bell. On the floor, he went over to Lil Yachty. He grabbed his kendo stick. Grabbed it away from him. The referee's back was turned. And Saints smacked the ring steps with the kendo stick. And then he dropped to the ground. So when the referee turned around, right, the old Eddie Guerrero spot. So when the referee turned around, he thought that it was Lil Yachty, who had attacked Ricky with the kendo stick, and he ejected Lil Yachty. See, this is a smart man, this Ricky Saints. Tricky Ricky. A smart heel. And then Ricky spent the majority of the match on offense, which was a big mistake. He spent the majority of the match in control. Trick was selling. This was not very exciting. The crowd was dead. They were D-E-A-D dead for the majority of this match. Later on, Saints avoided a trick shot knee. He caught Williams with a tornado DDT. Saints came off the top with an elbow for a near fall. He countered out of a bookend. He hit a knee strike. Trick then ducked a clothesline, finally hit the trick shot out of nowhere for the pin to retain the title. After the match, Ricky tried to attack Trick from behind. Lil Yachty, though, suddenly reappeared in the ring, and he had his kendo stick with him. And Williams ended up dropping Ricky with a backhand, and then he had Yachty hit this great value version of a people's elbow. It's no Snoop Dogg. I'll say that. The match was mid. I thought the work here from Ricky was solid. I just don't understand the decision to have him take 80% of the match like that. You know, he was the heel who was talking a lot of smack and doing all this stuff heading into this match. It should have been a little more even. And they just opted to go like all Ricky, have Trick selling, and then boom, hit his finish out of nowhere. And that didn't help. Again, it made for a very boring match. I felt bad for these guys watching this, though. They weren't doing anything wrong. Trick didn't really do much in this match. He was mostly selling. He did his usual stuff. He didn't do anything to really impress me here. Ricky, I thought, again, his work was solid, but I felt bad for them watching this because, and you've heard me mention the crowd a few times here in this review, this was not just a problem in their match. It was a problem in a lot of other matches on this show as well, where the crowd was just not reacting to anything. But this is the point in the show where they were as quiet as they were all night. It felt like I was watching those pandemic era shows in the empty performance center. Like that's how quiet it was. And I just felt bad for them. They're out there working and they're trying to get a reaction, and they're not reciprocating. They're not getting anything in return. And it didn't get much better in the next match, because we had Tiffany Stratton defending the Women's United States Championship against Jade Cargill, a match that I'm sure was never going to be on this show if Rhea Ripley was healthy. Once Rhea got pulled from the advertising, Tiffany took her place. We've seen this match 4 or 5 times before, the biggest ones being at SummerSlam last year, and then the rematch on Saturday night's main event in November. Same show where CM Punk beat Jey Uso to win the world title. And none of the matches that they've ever had are particularly good, right? Some of them maybe are better than others. They're okay. They're solid enough, but I'm not going to look back and go, hey, remember that great Tiffany Stratton Jade Cargill match we had last year? I can't do that because it doesn't exist. So I wasn't terribly excited to see it again, but I could see where it was going. Clear as fucking day what the finish of this match was going to be. Even more so than like Brock Lesnar potentially getting involved in the Oba Femi match. I knew exactly who was going to show up and get involved here in this match because it was the only thing that made sense. Stratton tried for a dive early on. Jade caught her, bounced her off the ropes and into a knee strike. Back inside, Jade caught Tiffany with a sit-out powerbomb for a near fall. Jade started doing push-ups in the ring, and it was so quiet in the building, you could, very loudly, you can hear her counting along to every push-up that she was doing. Stratton caught Jade with a rolling senton later. She went for the prettiest moonsault ever, but Jade got her knees up on the landing. Jade set up for Jaded. Tiffany, though, countered with a stunner. Stratton went up top when B-Fab ran out, and she distracted the referee so that Meechin could then show up and shove Stratton off the top. And then Jade gave her a choke slam, but she only got a 2 count out of it. Chelsea Green all of a sudden emerged. She crawled out from under the ring, again to no reaction. And she took out B-Fab and Meechin. Then she picked up the U.S. title because when she beat them up, she knocked over the pedestal that had the belt on it. And I think it was in a bag. So she reached into the bag. She pulled out the women's U.S. title. She's smiling at it. She's staring. She's gazing at this belt. And Jade is in the ring. She reaches out and she grabs Chelsea from behind. Chelsea ends up dropping the belt or laying it on the mat. So now it's in the ring. And Stratton rolled up Jade. She snuck up behind her, rolled her up for a 2 count. Jade then put her down with a pump kick. Jade spots the belt sitting on the mat. I think the referee was over tending to Tiffany. Why, I don't really know, but the referee was over with Tiffany. And so before Jade can go over and grab the U.S. title, Charlotte Flair magically appears at ringside. She's standing outside the ring. And so and it wasn't like she was trying to be inconspicuous either. I mean, with the outfit she was wearing, colorful, I mean, you could see her from outer space. How she just magically appeared and we didn't, again, hear the crowd reacting to her showing up, I have no idea. But there she was. She was at ringside. She took the belt instead. And then when Jade stuck her head out, she got whacked right in the head with the title belt. Knocked her backwards. Jade was knocked out cold. Tiffany went up top. She hit the prettiest moonsault ever, and she got the pin to retain the title. I got to tell you guys, I got to admit something here. I was kind of hoping that we would get a cameo appearance here from SGT Slaughter. I thought that SGT Slaughter was going to show up and maybe put Tiffy in the camel clutch, the Cobra clutch, but we had no such luck here. I wonder though, if he would have hit the scene, do you think she would have recognized him? Probably not, right? She would have been like, who is this strange man wearing army fatigues? Very much like their previous matches, not the worst thing I've seen, but not good either. It was a match that happened. That's the way I would describe this. It was a match that took place in the history of matches. It was a means to an end. The end was Charlotte Flair showing up and fucking Jade Cargill out of the U.S. title. Because why? Because Jade Cargill beat her up backstage before her match with Liv Morgan last week. Injured her knee. Cost her the opportunity to go on to become Queen of the Ring. And so why wouldn't Charlotte Flair show up and pay it right back to her, right? One good turn deserves another. Of course she was going to show up and cost her the championship. Now they've each cost each other something very important. And now they can build to SummerSlam in Minneapolis, and we will get the match between Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill. That's why. That's why this match existed. It's the whole reason this match was even taking place on this show. Was for them to be able to do that finish so that they could set up a big SummerSlam match. So it accomplished what they set out to do. I just didn't think the match was anything special. As was the case with a lot of stuff on this show. But not the main event. The main event is what really saved it for me. The main event was a triple threat match for the WWE Championship. It was Cody Rhodes defending his title against Gunther and SAMI ZAYN. This was SAMI ZAYN's 10th opportunity at a world championship. That means that he failed 9 times coming into this. Zizo says, SGT Slaughter would get mega heat in Saudi. It's a good point. He would get mega heat in Saudi. They totally should have done that. Maybe they'll have him manage her. Tiffany Stratton managed by SGT Slaughter. Well, if they didn't bring him in to manage Lacey Evans, I don't think they're going to do it with Tiffany Stratton. So Sammy was, of course, the clear favorite coming into this match. As he always is here on these Saudi shows, they love SAMI ZAYN. And he was right at home with all of his ride or die fans. Cody got a good reaction too. I was just happy that people were getting any reaction at this point. You know, signs of actual life on this show. I was very happy about that. Hey, Easy 5353, 19 months of channel membership. He's a sound off superstar. Says, I'm glad Sammy got the title. Cody is stale. He needs to take off for a while. Oba winning was the only right decision, and Solo is the true king of the ring. Well, thank you very much. I will happily accept this crown on your behalf. I will be your king. I hope I can serve you well. So there was an early Cody cutter to Gunther, and then Gunther just got right back up to his feet, and they just kept wrestling. I'm like, that was weird. The hell was that about? Now we're just turning the Cody cutter into just another move. Cody also hit a springboard double Cody cutter on both men, and then he hit Sami with a suicide dive. Cody got back in the ring. He was setting up for Crossroads. Gunther, though, countered out into a powerbomb with the stack. Sami was able to save the match, though, at the last minute. Outside the ring, Sami very aggressively launched Gunther into the steel steps. Michael Cole then compared... This is the point in the match where Michael Cole compared SAMI ZAYN to Wemby of the San Antonio Spurs and how entitled he is. I love it. I all these petty shots that Cole... Because I know this is not the first time he's done this. All these petty shots that he keeps taking at Wemby. These San Antonio fans are not going to be happy with Michael Cole. He's a big Knicks fan. Funny enough, I think he lives in Texas. But he's a big Knicks fan, a big Mets fan, too. You'll have to excuse Michael Cole for, when you're a Mets fan, you're probably a little ornery, especially lately. So back inside, Sami hit a beautiful Blue Thunder Bomb to Cody for a near fall. It looked like he may be setting up for the haluva kick, but Gunther from the floor reaches in. He yanks his legs out from under him and he crotches him on the ring post. So we were back to Cody and Gunther for a little bit. Cody hit Crossroads on Gunther. He covered him. Sami pulled the referee out of the ring to prevent the 3 count, which is perfectly legal in a triple threat match. There is nothing wrong with it. Perfectly legal. Sami shook his head like no at Cody. It's not ending like that. So Cody missed a disaster kick when Sami moved, and Sami dropped him with a brain buster. He covered him. Gunther, though, broke it up with a splash off the top rope. Gunther with a powerbomb to Sami. Then he powerbombed Cody onto Sami. Then he picked up Sami to deliver another powerbomb, and Sami countered that into this great code red for a near fall. That's a great spot. So now we're cooking here in this match. Gunther got hung up in the corner on a missed haluva kick, and Sami hit one of his own to Gunther, and he had the match won. He had the title won, but this time it was Cody who pulled the referee out to the floor to save his championship. And so Sami goes outside. The two of them start going at it. Cody clears off the announce desk. Sami clears off the Arabic announce desk. They wound up on top of that one, and Sami was setting up for a Kevin Owens-esque package pile driver. Cody fought out of it, though, and he hit a big back body drop. I mean, he got some height on that, and as Sami came down, he crashed through the announce table. I was sad here, the English announce desk, and I was sad here because that deserved way more of a reaction than it got. I'd pop big for it, even if the crowd didn't. So that also, though, took out Michael Cole's audio, as we were told by Corey Graves. So he took over, basically doing commentary on the match. Gunther powerbombed Cody onto the Arabic announce desk, which did not break. So he said, fuck it, we're going to do it again. And he powerbombed him a second time, and this time the table collapsed. And he quickly got Cody back in the ring because you can't win the championship outside. So he got him back in the ring. He got the sleeper hold applied with the body scissors down on the mat. He's squeezing the air out of Cody's lungs. Michael Cole got his audio back, but it sounded like absolute dog shit. He sounded like he was doing commentary underwater. It was very low and very muddled. Cody got up to his feet. He fell backwards to break the hold, but Gunther quickly reapplied the sleeper. Cody began to fade. He was going out here. And the referee lifted Cody's arm. This was the one thing about this match that I just kind of laughed at it. Like it didn't upset me, but I'm watching this, and the idea is that the way they do things now, typically in WWE, they don't do the drop the arm 3 times. I think they did with John Cena. They do it when they feel like doing it, but by and large, they don't do that anymore. That's like an old school thing. They drop the arm once. If somebody looks like they're unconscious, they'll drop the arm once, and if you're out, they call for the bell. And that's how it would be done in like a real fight, right? You wouldn't be like, okay, once, twice. Meanwhile, this person's unconscious. So the referee's picking up Cody's arm, and clearly he's out, right? Sami jumps into the ring, and he grabs the arm right at the very last minute before the arm can drop to the mat to save the match. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, if you want to call it kind of like a shoot, right? If the referee is concerned that one of the participants may be unconscious, that shouldn't matter. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you should still call the match or get in there and see. And if the person's out, you call for the bell. But it's like, nope, Sami Zayn held the arm, so therefore we got to let the match continue, even if this man is completely unconscious. I just laughed. It's one of those silly, stupid wrestling things. It's like, all right, so you're just going to let the match continue, huh? Poor Cody. Fuck Cody, I guess. But Sami saved it. So at this point, Corey Graves gave Michael Cole his headset. I don't know if he was told in his ear to do that or if he did that just as a friend. Like, here, you're the main announcer. We're heading to the finish of this match. Take my headset. So we didn't have Corey on commentary for a little bit. Cole took his headset. Gunther started chopping the shit out of Sami. Sami hit an exploder into the corner. And then he hit a haluva kick. And he covered, and Gunther kicked out. And to me, that was the moment in the match where I was like, well, that's it. You know, I was pulling for Sami, and that near fall told me, all right, it's not happening. He's not winning the belt. They got me on that one. Like, it felt to me like his chances of winning just flew out the window. Gunther was setting Sami up for something. Cody got back in. He dropped him with a super Cody cutter. And then he had a crossroads to Sami, but no, he didn't, because Sami was able to reverse out of it into one of his own. And he drops Cody with the crossroads. And now he's lining up for the haluva kick. And as he comes charging in, Gunther swoops in from out of nowhere and just catches him in a sleeper hold. But over comes Cody. And Cody delivers a double crossroads to both men. Was it a double crossroads or a double Cody cutter? Might have been a double crossroads. Whichever one it was. He executed it on both of them at the same time. Gunther at that point rolled out of the ring. His night is over. So we're down to Cody and Sami. Cody is setting up for a Cody cutter. And, or again, maybe it was a crossroad. Why am I getting those two moves confused? He was setting up for a crossroads. Sami drops down. He rolls Cody up, has the legs, almost like if he had, given him a victory roll. And he's holding the legs, and he pins Cody right in the middle of the ring. 1, 2, 3. And he wins the WWE Championship. And I was like, I was stunned only because I didn't know if they would have the balls to do it. I was hoping they would. I've learned not to give these people the benefit of the doubt, given the way the booking has been over much of the past year plus. And I was like, wow, they actually did it. And Sami, of course, was playing it up like he was stunned and just shocked, and he just couldn't believe it. He dove into the crowd. He was mobbed by fans, showered with love. And as the camera is following him out and up the ramp, he looked into the camera and he said, it's been 10 years of Sami Zayn in WWE. People said he would never do it. He would never win a world championship. Well, here it is. And they shot off pyro on the stage behind him, the big celebration, and that is how they went off the air. They did the damn thing. They did the damn thing. 10 years and 10 chances later. Because if you would have lost here, to have 10 opportunities and to fail 10 times, how do you recover from that? How do you recover from that? But on his 10th try, Sami Zayn finally wins the big one. He is a world champion. Not even Kevin Owens was WWE champion, despite what Cody Rhodes said on SmackDown Friday night. Kevin Owens never even won the WWE championship. Sami Zayn did. Easily the best thing on the entire show. This was, I thought, an excellent main event. A very exciting and I thought well executed finish. It was a shame the audio issues that they were having. It kind of, I don't want to say it ruined it, but it kind of put a damper on it there a little bit with Cole's audio anyway. But just an excellent finish down the stretch. Lots of great near falls, lots of drama. They had me convinced at one point that they weren't going with Sami, and then they went with Sami. And that was probably also why I was sitting here a little stunned, because I was like, wow, they actually ended up doing it. How about that? Here's the other thing I liked. I like that they had him pin Cody. He pinned the champion. It would have been worse, I think, if he pinned Gunther. It would have been worse for Gunther if he would have pinned Gunther, but I'm glad they didn't do that. They had him pin Cody. Cody is the WWE champion. He got beat. So I like that. This, to me, was a much-needed shakeup for the title picture on SmackDown heading into SummerSlam. And now it presents a lot of questions. Does Femi challenge Sami Zayn? I cannot see that being the SummerSlam match. To me, like, if you wanted to make a chart of all of the potential options, right, for SummerSlam, that's at the bottom. That's like the bottom three. Femi against Sami Zayn at SummerSlam, I can't see that. But there's no way that Cody Rhodes is not going to be involved, to me, in the WWE Championship match at SummerSlam. So I feel like Cody versus Sami in a singles rematch is one of the more likely, if not the likeliest, I feel like, of all of the possibilities here. But that's assuming Sami even makes it to SummerSlam. I don't know that Sami's going to get a very long run. I don't expect Sami's run to be very long, right? But that can mean a lot of things. Is he going to be champion for a week? Is he going to be champion until Saturday night's main event? Is he going to drop it at SummerSlam? Are they going to let him run with it a little bit longer? What would be the harm in letting him run a little bit longer with it? To me, you read the room. You got a good thing going with him in this character right now. And I don't know what effect it's going to have on business in terms of tickets. I don't know what effect it's going to have in terms of television ratings or whatever metrics that they're going to look at, social, whatever is important to them. If they notice that there's a drop-off, they may panic. I can't speak to any of that. Sami Zayn has never been world champion before. We don't know. We don't know, right, how he's going to do in that role. But to me, like, you're heading into a part of the year that typically is pretty, like, I mean, coming out of SummerSlam, I'm talking about, right? SummerSlam's their second biggest event of the year. Coming out of SummerSlam, you go into the fall, and generally there's not a whole lot going on. Like, what would be the harm in keeping the belt on Sami beyond SummerSlam and giving him a few months, to run with it? Especially if what he's doing is working. That's what I mean when I say you got to read the room. If what they're doing with him seems to be resonating and it's working, and with him as a heel in that spot, maybe he'll have more baby faces to work with, then maybe you keep it on him for a little bit longer. Again, we don't know what the status of Kevin Owens is. He had surgery, I think, about 11 months ago. How close is he potentially to being cleared for a comeback, right? And how might he factor into things when it comes to Sami as the champion? Would they even bring him back maybe to television, even if he's not ready to wrestle? But maybe he could be, kind of part of this in some way. I don't know, right? I put that out there as a possibility. CM Punk is the other wild card here. CM Punk is coming back very soon. He'll probably be on Raw when they're in Chicago on July 6th, but he is probably going to be a SmackDown star. The report is that not only is he going to SmackDown, but they got a big match lined up for him. Now, the biggest match would be Cody Rhodes against CM Punk for the WWE Championship. That doesn't look like that's going to be happening anytime soon. My thought was that if Sami doesn't win the title, the SummerSlam match for him could be against Punk. You could do that as like a big undercard match at SummerSlam. But now Sami is the champion. If Punk goes to SmackDown, how does he, fit into this? Does he fit into the title picture right away? Would they do Punk and Sami? Like, I don't know. Right? It's interesting. It's another kind of wrinkle in all this. Where does Gunther go from here? Gunther, I feel like, is in a similar boat to Bron Breakker on Raw, in that he took this loss, and on its own, it's not going to bury him, but he's in a very precarious position right now, where a lot of it is going to hinge on what this next step is for him. He just lost to Cody Rhodes 3 times, right? Technically, now, again, let's not even go back to Crown Jewel 2 years ago. Let's just look at Clash in Italy, SmackDown, and this match here on this show. He just went 0 for 3, back to back to back in WWE title matches. Well, I guess technically four times, because they restarted the match on SmackDown last week. 0 for 4 since the end of May. In the span of a month, Gunther has now gone 0 for 4 in his quest to become WWE champion. That's pretty fucking terrible. And I now have no interest in seeing him pursuing the championship. He's got to move on to something else. Him going after SAMI ZAYN at Summer, I don't want to see that. I have no interest in that. So they've soured me on that, but I don't know where he goes from here. It's funny because many months ago, I don't know if it was on the prediction show, but many months ago I said, you know, Ilya Dragunov being on SmackDown, we need to get Gunther on SmackDown. Actually, probably coming out of WrestleMania when I was talking about moving Gunther over, I think I floated that as a possibility. Like, man, how great would it be if they end up on the same brand? We could build to like a program between Gunther and Dragunov, you know, and it doesn't even need to have a belt on the line necessarily. But then Dragunov fell off the face of the fucking earth, and I don't know when we're going to see him again. I honestly don't know what would be next. If Punk is going to SmackDown, Punk and Gunther, we've seen it though. That was the SummerSlam match last year. And at least there was a championship on the line. I don't want to go back to that. So I don't know. Just like Braun Breaker on Raw. I don't know. I don't know what's next. I can tell you one thing. I mean, him and Brock Lesnar, which at one point was, before all the Oba Femi stuff came about, there was the possibility of a big Brock and Gunther match. And it's like, Gunther's coming off all of these losses. So much of that aura that he had at the beginning of the year has been wiped away. He just feels like another guy now. That I feel like even if they wanted to do him and Brock, like, the only way that works is if they're really not going to do Oba and Brock again. I can't imagine they don't do it again. But like, if they're not going to do that again and Brock really is going to hang it up in Minneapolis at SummerSlam, and I don't know how likely that even is, and then maybe they make Gunther his last opponent. I mean, you could do that. Yeah. Does that really excite you? Is that something that you would really be interested in seeing? Maybe. Like, I'm not opposed to a Brock and Gunther match. I think we're in a situation now where they may have waited too long. We may not even get the chance to see it. And maybe now, time-wise, it doesn't make sense. This is not the same Gunther that was present at the beginning of the year. It's just not that it wouldn't feel the same. He's taken too many losses recently. That's what I mean when I say he just feels like another guy. So I don't know what's next for him. Will Johnny Gargano finally stop planking? And is he going to factor into this in some way where maybe he becomes Sammy's stooge? Sammy is usually the one that's in the role of stooge, right? Traditionally, he's been the stooge in the past. But this whole association on TV with him and Gargano, you would think maybe that's leading somewhere. If Gargano finally gets up off the crate, he ain't going to be wrestling for the WWE Championship, but maybe he can be his lackey or something. I don't know. So there's a lot of questions now. Where are the pieces going to fall? This is good, though. This is a good conversation to have. SmackDown's going back to 2 hours starting next week, which is great. Sorry to all the people who are going to probably end up being left off the show, but the show is fucking awful. And if they refuse to improve the show, then it's better at 2 hours than 3. But at least now coming out of this show, where the main title picture is concerned, I'm interested to see where they're going to go with all these people, right? They have my attention now. I want to see where they're going to take this. It's not totally predictable anymore in the way that it was when Cody had the belt. So I see that as a good thing. But that main event was fucking great. The only thing on this show I would say that about, because of the rest of the show I thought was very mid. But that main event was fantastic. So that was Night of Champions. The next big show is going to be Saturday night's main event for them. July 18th, Madison Square Garden. Hey, maybe they do Brock and Oba at MSG, the world's most famous arena, home of the world champion New York Knicks. It's possible. The Be the Booker goal. Yeah, somebody asked about that. The Wheel said 450 likes was the goal. We are currently at 633. So yes, we did hit the goal. We're 7 out of 10 on the bonus goal. So we'll see if we end up getting over there. But I'm going to go ahead and take your questions because I know there's a whole bunch of them here. Again, they haven't been popping up on screen because there's an outage with Streamlabs, which triggers them on screen. Apparently, this is a widespread outage that started earlier today. So I'm getting them. They're just not showing up. So I will read them. Fear not. I will go through all of them. Falcon Star says, I hope we don't get Brock and Oba on Saturday night's main event. I canceled my Peacock subscription. They may have to they may get you to resubscribe then. That's their goal. They want you to resubscribe. They want to pick up as many subscribers as possible. Could they do 2.5 hours for SmackDown? Not until they could put together a string of really good SmackDown shows. But could they do it? Sure. It's just a matter of, does USA Network want to have a 2.5 hour show? And then how do they fill that 30 minutes? I think most of their shows are an hour long. So what would they do for those 30 minutes? They may not want to do that. I don't know. I don't know where their head is at on that. Hey, Joseph Stewart, happy Saturday to you, brother. He was ever present on the stream yesterday. Very supportive. What was a very quiet night, so I appreciate that. Favorite moment from Wolfpack Sting? Showing more of his personality. Yeah. I mean, Sting was showing more personality when he was in the Wolfpack. I just think I don't have a favorite Wolfpack Sting moment, but like him having any sort of association with the NWO is just wrong to me. It's kind of like WWE sending the NWO guys out there, Hogan, Hall, Nash, at WrestleMania to help Sting. Like they gave no shits about like the history of WCW by doing that. Yeah, we'll just have the NWO guys go out there and help Sting. Sure, why not? How different would DDP's career have been if he had been the one to end Goldberg's streak? I pitch for that very thing. I think he would have been an even bigger star out of it. The Raven character, yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what the backstory would be. Probably somebody who had suffered some sort of great loss in life, and you can kind of build on like a tortured soul kind of thing. Maybe that would be the backstory, like the origin story for Raven. Do I think Sting was Hogan's greatest rival in WCW? In WCW, yes. And do I think Kiana James is going to be a big star in WWE? I think that I'm so hesitant with like the booking. I think I would like to say yes, but you know, with this crew, it's just, who knows? I'm going to say that she will be a future world champion in the women's division. Yes. What about Harley Cameron in AEW? She does a lot of media stuff for them, and is it movie premieres? Yeah, Harley's a star for them. She's never going to be a megastar, though. You know, she's super talented, though. She's very multi-talented. I did not know that about Arnold. Anyway, Joseph, I appreciate that. The pair of $9.99s from Joseph. Joseph, I'm going to give you a yes chant. Always showing love, man. Even in slow times. Even in slow times lately. It's been very slow. I appreciate it. Olivia. Rare pay-per-view live watch from Bulgaria. Much love, Solo. Shout out to all of my peeps in Bulgaria. I don't know how many of them I have over there. I have at least one. At least I know I have at least one. GMB, Oba Brock at Madison Square Garden, Oba Roman, and Brock Gunther at SummerSlam. Any of those are possible. I think the latter part of your message is probably more likely than the first part, but I could see any of that. I could see any of that being the case. It's always Rusev Day in Bulgaria. Certainly not Rusev Day in WWE. Super Pony, I haven't marked out like that in fucking years. Holy shit, so happy for Sammy. He deserves it so much. Match was amazing too. Yeah, it was a great match. It was a great match. I mean, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of hate. I know there's a lot of people who are not going to be happy about Sami Zayn being the champion. They don't see him as championship material, but I thought it was a great moment. Mark Hugh, the Mark. Let's fucking go. Oba won, Sami won, and Io won. I said, man, they got it right with all three key matches on this show. The big matches, the finals, the title match. They batted 1,000 as far as the outcomes. The Shawnathon. Finally, Triple H doesn't play it safe and Sami wins. I don't know for how long, but Cody and Roman as world champions is boring right now. This is the right move, in my opinion. Well, remember, at the beginning of the year, they did that with Drew. And they put the belt on Drew, and I was an advocate for that. And then 2 months later, he lost it back to Sami, or to Cody. In fact, I think the only successful title defense he had was against Sami, which was at the Rumble. Andre Jefferson, hey Solo, says, I had a thought. Oba challenges Sami at SummerSlam, beats him. Then Brock challenges Oba for WrestlePalooza. They do love their WrestlePalooza, don't they? They're probably going to bring that back. No, I don't see Oba and Sami, though. I don't see that. I don't see that as a SummerSlam main event. Mark Hugh says, and let's not have him drop it back to Cody. That title doesn't have to be affiliated with Kingdom all the damn time. Oh, you're going to get Kingdom and you're going to like it. Kingdom ain't going nowhere. Tommy Colella, so from now on, we can call Sami Zayn Grand Slam Sam. Too bad Kevin Owens couldn't be there and celebrate like Ciampa did with Gargano back in 2019. Oh, I'm sure there'll be a phone call or a text message sent, I'm sure. Super Pony praying that they let Sami hold it till SummerSlam and we get Cody against Sami. That's the best WWE title match they can do on that show. Well, I mean, now it would be. Before I would have said Cody and Punk. But I don't know how realistic that ever was going to be. Hey, Super Pony, though, thank you for the $4.99, man. And Tommy, thank you for the $5. You guys are awesome. Says, Lucas, Bloodline's feeling oozy after Sami's win. Well, they're feeling somewhat oozy. Jey Uso did not win, which is fine with me. Misfit Wrestling Podcast with the 10 spot. What's going on, Misfit? They are going to have Brock beat Sami for the title of Madison Square Garden. And then do Brock versus Oba for the title at SummerSlam, aren't they? Because Oba is not pulling double duty at you know what? Brock against Sami at Madison Square Garden. It's an interesting idea. It is an interesting idea. You have Brock beat Sami. Like, Oba will... Well, I guess there's no time limit, right? Oba can make his... I mean, if Oba wants to wait a few weeks to make his choice. How about this? I'll tell you this. If Oba Femi, like in the next week or two, if Oba Femi chooses the WWE Championship to go after at SummerSlam, to me, that's a huge red flag. If he picks Sami Zayn to go after, then I think you're right. Because I do not see Sami going into SummerSlam to be the one to defend that belt against Oba if that's the choice that Oba makes. If Oba picks Sami, then I think you're right. I think somehow they get to Sami and Brock for the title on that show. Brock wins. And he's already made his choice. And that's how we get Oba and Brock, with Oba going over and winning the championship. And then Sami would just have the mother of all meltdowns. And maybe that's how we, Punk debuts on SmackDown. We get Sami and Punk as an undercard match. The only thing is, again, where does Cody fit in? How is Cody not going to be involved in like one of the top matches on these shows? I just don't see how he's not involved. So what is Cody doing on that show? That's the only problem with that idea. But it does sound like something WWE would do. I'd feel bad for Sami, though. It'd almost be as bad as what they did with Kofi and Brock. I don't think anything will be as bad as that. But that would be almost as bad as that. But that does sound like very much a WWE type of thing that they would do. So, thanks. I hope you're wrong. Thanks. I hate it. We got Tim B. Toves. Been loving the show since 2010. Glad to see you're still going strong. Be well, my friend. Hey, brother, I appreciate that. Thimby. Is it Timby or Thimby? Maybe Thimby. Unlike Wemby. Get shit on by Michael Cole every week. Speedy. What are the odds now of a Cody heel turn? I think they're still very low. I smoke a lot of weed. Is Cody a bigger star than Randy in his career? Yes. Aaron, Gunther and Aldis got in a fight on the post show. Oh my God. Don't tell me. Don't tell me that's going to be their idea for Gunther. Wrestle the GM. Let me tell you something. If that ends up being the match, considering where Gunther was 6 months ago and they picked him to be in that spot to retire John Cena, if 6 months later he's wrestling the general manager at SummerSlam, that's an epic failure of WWE creative. Just an epic failure. Hey, Gamer Dude, thank you, brother. Listening to the sound off while I'm on the grind. Listening for over a decade now. Keep doing your thing. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. I'm here every week. Eric the Sean, I read his super chat earlier, but I got to say thank you again for that $50 Gunther buy. I only wish Gunther was working tonight. He can pop up, but I appreciate it, brother. Thank you for the 50. It's the biggest one all night. Chris Bars with a 10 says, yes, oh Solomonster, I acknowledge you as our king. Here we go. See, that's what I like. What I like hearing. Let me put my crown back on. I'm proud to serve. Jeremy says, why does Jay still get the babyface entrance? He's a fucking heel. 2026 wrestling fans popping for his entrance annoy me, and I'm a Jay fan. Why does Roman still get cheered, even though he's a heel? LA Knight is not wrong in anything that he says when he's on TV every single week. Roman, like, the only time that LA Knight gets booed is whenever he says something negative about Roman, and then the fans chant OTC, OTC. Sean Sanders says Obi. Oba tapped Jay rematch on Raw. Here comes the pain. That wasn't a tap. I know what part of the match you're talking about. That was not a tap. Are you trying to will something into existence with Jey Uso? Because I will not allow it. T-Mac says, bruh, I thought Bron versus Rollins cooked. I mean, the latter part of the match did. The first half of the match was fucking boring. I thought it turned into a pretty good match by the end. As far as the show itself, he says 3.5 out of 5. Because of that main event, I might go 3 out of 5. It was not better than that. This was a very mid show outside of that main event. I'm sorry. Jeremy Rose, Drew seeing Sami win got him licking his chops. Oh yeah, you know what? That's a great point. That is a great point. Sami's like 0 for 11 against Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre, he's rubbing his hands together. Are you kidding me? That championship's coming home. Jeremy says, is Cody going to do the babyface thing and congratulate Sami, or are we going to lean into heel Cody and he gives him no credit for a fluke win? I think for Cody's character, he'll give credit to Sami where it's due. Those are the rules of a triple threat match. He knew the risks coming in. There's nothing that Sami did in the match that was really out of bounds. I think he'll give him credit. Johnny Burney, watch Sami drop the belt to Brock in 18 seconds. It's Saturday night's main event. Oh, God. Alexander says, Io is now Queen of the Sky. Yes, she is. Jeremy says, do you see Bloodline beating down Oba and Roman wearing the crown on Raw like he did with Xavier Woods? Probably not. It's one thing to beat down Xavier Woods. Plus, they would just be recycling the same angle. Aaron says Triple H is so afraid of booze that he didn't go to give the crowns. Oh, I thought you were talking about liquor. He's a teetotaler. He's afraid of the booze. Bader Mohammed. I was at the show and I was desperate for Sami to win the title. Says I didn't think that they were going to pull the trigger, especially at this show, but they did. Hats off to you. You called it on TNT. I was just hoping, man. I was hoping. I said show some balls and put the belt on Sami, and that's what they did. I'm very happy. But I hope you enjoyed the show, Bader. So you got to be there for history. History was made with Sami's big win. ASU Amy, Jade Cargill wrestles like she is going through the match with her opponent before the show. That's because she probably is. I said that match that she had, it was the King of the Ring qualifying match that she had with the four-way with Charlotte, Soul, and Lyra on SmackDown a few weeks ago. Especially when she was in there with Charlotte. It looked like it was her first day at wrestling school. Or not her first day at wrestling school. It looked like her first day at school finally being ready to have a match. That's what it looked like. Alexander, we need Gunther against Dragunov 3, but it won't happen. Yeah, it's too bad. It really sucks. Nick Grasso with a $9.99. I think Oba picks Roman and they do Brock Oba 3. It's Saturday night's main event at Madison Square Garden. And I also still think there's a chance they do Gunther against Brock at SummerSlam, because what else do you do with Gunther at SummerSlam? Well, evidently, it might be Nick Aldis. I don't know. Also, another idea for Brock at SummerSlam. Breaker leaves the Vision and Heyman sends the Beast after him, and we get Lesnar against Breaker. That could work. As long as Breaker wins. Bron has to win. He lost the cage match. If you are going to do him and Brock, he must win that match. Otherwise, don't do the match. He would have to win. Aaron says, will Saudi top Vegas for worst WrestleMania crowd? I don't know. If tonight was any indication, I'm not terribly optimistic about it. Alex the Spiteful rate you? First the Knicks winning a chip, now Sami Zayn winning a WWE Championship. So many underdog wildcards this year. Congrats to him. Well, then, you know, on that note, I'll put this question to you guys, because some of you may know more about it than I would. If this is the year of the underdog, who would you say would be considered the underdog team right now in the World Cup? Maybe it's their year. I don't know who the underdog would be. MVK, it was another scuffle solo between Gunther and Nick Aldis, and it got physical. Yes, I know. They just mentioned that to me. So either what, they're going to wrestle, or Aldis is going to suspend him, and they don't have anything for Gunther, so they'll just take him off TV for a while. Good morning, Cheza. Good morning to you. Toya ain't nice. They had a backstage segment with Gunther and Nick Aldis. Could have a match there. Thank you, Toya. Alexander says, Gunther needs to drop the career killer gimmick now. He's not fooling anyone with this amount of losses that he has now. It still says career killer on his Tron when he comes out, but they really haven't been focusing on it too much on commentary because it's a stupid gimmick. So I agree. And Fox with a $9.99. I saw Obsession a couple of days ago, and wow, it was good. The actress was amazing. I felt bad for her character the whole movie. Says, but man, I hate the ending. That is not exactly a happy ending. There's nothing really happy about the movie. But to me, it's the best movie all year so far. I loved it. I thought it was great, but it's not exactly what you would call a feel-good tale. Linkmaster says Kofi had at least 2 more world title reigns in him. No, he didn't. I mean, look, we're being honest here. No, he didn't. Super Pony, do you think KO will get his moment like Sami did today when he comes back? It's a crime that he's never been WWE champion. I think the fact that Sami just won the belt makes it more likely. I'd like to think the answer is yes. Tyler Hansen, Punk versus Rhodes at SummerSlam. If not, then at WrestleMania 43. Yeah, but are you saying Punk versus Rhodes at SummerSlam non-title? That would be bold if they did it on the undercard and not as a main event, because to me, that's a main event. And if it's going to be in the main event, then it has to be for the title. And Toya says, Brock's last match should be at SummerSlam. Oba can work 2 nights if need be. And those, I think I'm all caught up. Oh, Wolfman, 42 months of membership. No, 62. Where'd I get 42 from? 62 months. It says America, though hosting, is considered an underdog in this tournament. Interesting. Who did somebody say before? Cabo Verde? Hunter hates Owens. He'll never win the belt. What do you mean he hates Owens? Owens was like his boy in NXT. I mean, he wasn't in NXT for very long. I never got the impression he hated him. The old Triple H would have hated him. The old Triple H, like when he was still wrestling many, many years ago, like way pre-NXT. Owens is the kind of person that he would have, like, in production meetings or meetings with Vince, booking meetings, he would have completely shit on somebody who looked like Kevin Owens. And he probably still feels the same way as he felt back then, right? Leopard never really changes his spots, but now that he's in a position of power, he understands that he needs people like that on the roster. But he would completely bury the shit out of somebody who dressed like Owens and looked like Owens, because Triple H is a body guy. If you don't look the part, you're not a champion, right? But then again, Sami Zayn is now WWE champion, so maybe he's changed his views. All right, you guys are getting a round of Be the Booker. You guys unlocked it, and so let's go ahead and do it. Be the Booker time.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is now time to Be the Booker.
Cape Verde are technically the lowest team to make it to round of 32. Sounds like an underdog to me. All right, here we go. Oh my God. Fucking lowdown. On a night where Sami Zayn won the big one, we needed a big night to Be the Booker. And we start with Lowdown, D'Lo Brown, and Mosh from the Headbangers, Chaz. Look at this. This was a thing. This was a real thing, by the way. I have no idea why. Oh, man. You know, I was going to give this the easy buzz, but you know what? Just the fact that we have the Brain Busters in here. You got Arn. You got Tully. D'Lo's great. I think they can make something out of this. I'm surprised at myself that I gave that the bell, but once I saw Arn and Tully and Bobby, I said I had to. Choose 4 women and book a tag team. Didn't we just do this last night? Choose 4 women and book a tag team match. I guess we're booking a women's tag team title match. So you get 2 tag team matches tonight. Asuka. Yes. All right, who's going to be teaming up with Asuka? It's going to be Asuka, and it's going to be Cora Jade. That's not the team I was expecting. Asuka and Cora Jade against Victoria. Ooh, Asuka and Victoria on opposing teams. And Victoria's partner, Kairi Sane. Well, now talk about being on opposing sides. Kairi will finally get her revenge that WWE did not give her. She's going to fuck up Asuka in this match. Victoria and Kairi against Asuka and Cora Jade. Gee, I wonder who's taking the pin in this match. It's the only reason Cora Jade is in there. I love that. I love it. Asuka and Kairi on opposing teams. See? If Triple H isn't going to give you the payoff, I will. At least you'll get it here. Kairi's revenge. That's right. That's right. Hey, T-Max says, we, USA, definitely the underdogs to win the cup. Well, I guess if the USA wins, it'll be officially the year of the underdog. And in the main event, we have William Regal. He's a former king of the ring. Oh boy. William Regal, who has an awful lot of metal in his neck, is going into battle with Brock Lesnar. And that seems like a very bad idea because he's going to be dumped on his head a whole bunch of times. He's going to be taken to Suplex City. And I don't think that would be very good for William Regal. But I will give it the bell. And that is a clean sweep. There you go. Some very interesting matches there that we were able to book. Even though I was not enamored with this card, I still think that this card was better than what we just booked. Although the women's tag match intrigues me, but that was not our strongest Be the Booker. Pray for Regal. Regal isn't cleared. Oba gets Brock. Oba is the replacement. Regal's not medically cleared. Hey, a sweep is a sweep, man. There you go. Anyway, thank you guys for hanging out with me on a Saturday afternoon / evening. And coming off the SmackDown stream last night. Tomorrow, brand new episode of The Sound Off, episode 969, will be dropping at some point in the afternoon. Hopefully not too late because there are a lot of wrestling shows tomorrow. And I will not be live after Forbidden Door. I'm going to watch the show, but I ain't staying up that late to review that show. So we'll save that review for Tuesday. But if you are checking out whatever wrestling shows you were checking out tomorrow, enjoy. I'm sure there'll be much to discuss coming out of them all. But yes, the Sound Off will drop tomorrow. Keep your eyes out for it. And if you are not already subscribed here to the channel, or if you're new to the channel, I hope you enjoy your stay. We got a lot of content. We're always live every single week. So until next time, be well, stay safe, have yourselves a great rest of your night, and just be happy that if nothing else, that image that you see on your screen, King Jey Uso, did not come true. We have King Oba Femi. And for the first time, SAMI ZAYN is WWE champion. Austin says, apologize if you've been asked this before, but who is your favorite King of the Ring winner of all time? Chat, do you want to tell him? Do you want to tell him what the answer is? Because it's a very simple answer. That would be the first King of the Ring from the first pay-per-view that they did in 1993. Still the best King of the Ring. Bret the Hitman Hart. I think even Bret would have been able to pull out probably the best match of Jey Uso's career. If it was Bret and Jey in the main event, I think he would have been given the best match that he's ever had. But I mean, he's not a magician here. I mean, the man's not a miracle worker. So, man, can only do so much. I mean, come on now. Anyway, have yourselves a good night. I'll see you tomorrow.